Speaker.
For Courtenay-Alberni.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And one thing we don't talk enough about when we talk about the right to our environment is Indigenous peoples and food security and the impact climate change is having on Indigenous peoples. And Madam Speaker, where I live, the headline, in Czech News today was drought destroys wild mushrooms in Vancouver Island forests, and these mushrooms are chanterelles and various different mushrooms. We've never in history not had chanterelles, and they're basically wiped out, Madam Speaker. The smoke is so bad you can barely breathe on the West Coast. In terms of precipitation in the Comox Valley, they've had 5 millimeters from August to October, normally 194 millimeters, Madam Speaker. In Port-Alberni, where I live, 6.6 millimeters of rain, and normally we have 332 millimeters of rain by now. Madam Speaker, through you, maybe my colleague can speak about the urgency, the climate emergency that we're under and the lack of urgency from the government and how it's impacting local food security in his community and certainly when it comes to Indigenous people and the important non-timber forest products that they rely on.
The honourable member from Rivière-des-Mille. I really appreciate my colleague from the NDP. I appreciate his questions and his sensibility. There are some elements in his questions that we could speak about for a long time. He talked about Indigenous people. He talked about the natural disasters in British Columbia, climate events. This is something that I care about very much, and I know he cares about very much. This is something that he brings up frequently. I would say that this bill is important, but the content is lacking. It's here, it's late, but we will support it. I imagine that the NDP will also support it. There's so much work that needs to be done. And when we refer to the Liberal government, it's obvious that they're not putting their money where their mouth is. If we're building pipelines in the Atlantic, we see that they're hypocritical, and this is something